And we are live. Hello, everyone. It's been a few days. I know you missed me, and I missed you a whole bunch. But I'm glad you can join me here again today. We got something really special, something that I've been wanting to talk about here for a little while. Let me adjust the light. Something here, and then I have this light stand that you can change the lights. And let's see here. Let's go with that, huh? All right, we'll keep it there. Anyway, today I wanted to talk to you about how to speak in public, especially with a persuasive speech. I wanted to cover Andrew Yang at South by Southwest and just talk about how he did. And I wanted to run an idea for reparations by you guys. So I don't know if I have a good idea or if I'm thinking about this the right way, but I'd like to hear your feedback. But the first thing that I wanted to go over was Andrew Yang at South by Southwest, and you can use that as an example for how to speak in public. Now, for a lot of us, speaking in public is something that can cause a bit of anxiety, right? So if you know that you have a public speech coming up, you can start to feel a little bit anxious about it. And it's not something that's necessarily rational, it's just something that you feel, right? So you can't really avoid it. It's just something that happens. But I want to give you a tip, a formula rather, that if you follow this formula, you'll be able to speak in front of any crowd about pretty much any subject, and you'll be able to fill the necessary allotment of time. So how to speak in public. But we're going to be following, it's called Monroe's motivated sequence. And if you want an example of Monroe's motivated sequence, you can watch Andrew Yang's talk at South by Southwest. Now, the talk at South by Southwest from Andrew Yang starts with the attention getter. And so let me tell you how the formula works. So the formula is number 1, attention getter. Number 2, the need. Number 3, the satisfaction, or you satisfy that need. 4 is the visualization, so you visualize the future. And then 5 is the call to action. So I'll go through more in depth what each one of those steps are. But so the first thing we'll talk about is the attention getter. Now, the attention getter is always the flashiest part of the talk. And, if you were giving a talk to, let's say, a high school about why you should attend college, your attention getter might be something like you walk out on stage and you have a bag full of fake or real money and you just empty it onto the stage and you say, look at this money. All of this money is money that you can have if you go to college, because your average earnings if you go to college are higher than if you don't go to college, yada, yada, yada. So the attention getter, the point of the attention getter is to make sure that people are going to listen to what it is that you're about to tell them. A common mistake with public speaking is that you just launch right off into whatever it is that you want to talk about, or you start with facts or figures or numbers, things that people really aren't they might be interested in, but it's tough to follow along, especially if you have a long speech. And this is the bare bones formula. You don't have to be Tony Robbins, you don't have to be Barack Obama to give a good speech. You just need to follow these steps. So the first thing you need to do is have your attention getter. What does Andrew Yang do at South by Southwest? Well, he uses humor. And humor can be an effective attention getter. So he talks about how the person who was supposed to interview him got stuck in traffic, so he's going to interview himself. And he starts with a joke like, Andrew, how do you have such innovative and great ideas? And he gets some laughs from the audience, and then, he does have a sense of humor. Yang is a pretty funny guy. He just has this dry sense of humor, this likable aspect to him. So he uses humor effectively to get people's attention. And what he starts off into next is, it's pretty good how he does this and how he establishes the need. So after you have your attention getter, you have your need. So you're going to demonstrate what the need is, what it is that people came to see. What's the problem, essentially? And so the need is, he asks the audience, why is it that you came here? So he asks the audience why they came. And that's pretty brilliant. He's going to let the audience decide the need. He's going to let the audience tell themselves why they showed up. And someone in the audience gives him just the best answer you could probably ask for. And it's I believe her name was Polly, and she said that she was concerned about people. I mean, you couldn't have teed it up any better. In fact, maybe this is someone from his campaign. Probably not. It's probably a person. But I mean, this is just a fantastic thing to get from the audience, because it allows you to go straight into whatever topic you want to start with first. Because as a politician, every sort of solution that you have, you could say, is because you're concerned about people. So he uses that concern about people, and he starts establishing the need. And we all know, most of my YouTubers and Periscopers know about Andrew Yang at this point, and they know about why he's running for office, and they know about the automation and AI and how jobs and unemployment is going to be a bigger and bigger issue going forward. And if you don't know about that, then watch my previous videos and you'll learn all about that. But he establishes the need with the fact that unemployment is going to be a reality in the future with jobs and AI. And he talks about, sort of what that looks like using human stories. He talks about the trucker in Iowa and the slow roll and how they jammed up traffic and all of these different aspects. So he starts by establishing the need. After he establishes the need, what you want to do is satisfy that need. So here's the problem. How do I fix the problem? So you've painted a pretty dark picture of the world. How do I fix this? And so the satisfaction is step number 3 in Monroe's motivated sequence. That was not a hidden hand gesture. It's just number 3. That's not whatever 4chan thinks it is. But you start to satisfy the need. So what is the satisfaction for the need? And if you're watching the video, the satisfy part starts at, well, I'm running for president. And what are the rules for running for president? So this is when he starts to give you the solution to this. So he saw what the problems were. So how is he going to solve it? Well, you got to run for president and win. So how do you run for president? And then he lays out the rules, and then he talks about how he asked his wife, and then he starts to intermingle the satisfaction and the visualization. So the satisfaction with Andrew Yang at South by Southwest is universal basic income. So this $1,000 a month that he wants to give everyone, that is the solution to the need, or at least it's going to satisfy a lot of the problems that he addresses in the need. So he starts about the satisfaction, and he talks about UBI, and then he starts to talk about visualization. And with the visualization, he starts talking about what the solution actually looks like. So he talks about what the solution is, and now visualization, he's going to tell you what that looks like. So he has the VAT tax that he's going to put on Amazon and Netflix and all the companies. And he asks the audience, what is it that you would do with $1,000? That's a pretty good visualization. I bet if I asked you, what would you do with $1,000? A few things are probably going to pop into your head. Now, those things may not be the things that you end up actually doing with $1,000, but the fact that you have some sort of mental activity going on, the fact that you're thinking about that issue, that's the direction that he wants to take you. Imagine if you had $1,000 extra a month. And if you're like me and most other people, you can probably think, yeah, that's something that I want. You start to build that desire, like, yeah, I could use $1,000 extra a month, which takes you to the action. And the action in this circumstance is obvious. It's to go, vote for him, to support him. And he mentions that at least a few times, especially after the Q&A. But, they ask some questions, and question and answer is a whole different thing. But once you get to the action stage of Monroe's motivated sequence, you will effectively have delivered a persuasive speech. So, if you ever have any concerns about doing any sort of public speech, especially if you're trying to persuade someone, follow Monroe's motivated sequence. You can Google it, and again, that sequence goes as follows. First, the attention getter. I should have my whiteboard. I don't have my whiteboard today, but first, you have your attention getter. Then you have your need. You establish the need and what the problem is that you're going to be talking about. Number 3, you have your satisfaction, or you satisfy that need with some solution. Number 4, you have the visualization of your solution. So you ask people to imagine what your solution looks like in the real world. You start to get their imagination working. You start to get them to see your solution in action. And then number 5 is the call to action. So you ask them to then go and vote for you or sign up for your newsletter or do some action that relates to the satisfaction visualization, the solution that you want. You ask them to act on whatever it is you want them to act on. So that's Monroe's motivated sequence, and use it to great effect. I have used it personally, and I've won awards for public speaking, at least on 2 occasions, and all I did was follow Monroe's motivated sequence. And in fact, I got the award for best persuasive speech, at my college or whatever. So it does work, and it is effective, and hopefully it's something that you can use as well. And you don't have to be charismatic, you don't have to be very persuasive. If you just follow that formula, people are going to think you did a fantastic job. So that goes over how to give a public speech. And, using Andrew Yang at South by Southwest, it was a pretty good example because he just goes right down the line with it. I mean, he obviously knows this motivated sequence because he follows it to the T. And so he's a pretty effective public speaker. We're going to see, and he seems effective with question and answering too. So, the first big test, he's going to just be rinsing and repeating this formula, going on media, doing campaign rallies. And it's just going to be this until June when the debates start. So, strap in because we're going to be in for a heck of a ride leading up to these debates because he probably can't do any wrong. He's in this situation where he's too small to really attack because attacking him, especially if you're a rival candidate, would really just give him more attention. And he's pretty good at answering criticism, so attacking him probably wouldn't work. You would only do it if it's absolutely necessary. And if you're a candidate at this stage right now, you're more concerned with building your own base of support than chipping away at someone else's. So no one's going to really be attacking Andrew Yang. So his first real big test, and no one's probably going to attack each other until at least after the first debate. So we're going to see a relatively, not too many fireworks are going to be flying, at least until that first debate. So we're just going to see him touring around the country, doing a bunch of media. And so that's going to be exciting. But the first real big test is going to be that debate. And, by the way, who predicted that Andrew Yang would be on the debate stage? Yours truly. Now, I know what you're thinking, that was an easy prediction. And, of course, it seems obvious now. But when I predicted it, it wasn't entirely clear. It wasn't so obvious. But to me, it was pretty obvious. He would at least get on the debate stage. He was just picking up so much momentum and so much traction, especially early on. So that's at least one right prediction. So add that to the scoreboard. But I wanted to talk about one more thing, and it was an idea for reparations. So if you follow me on Twitter, say you're one of the YouTubers and you follow me on Twitter, you've probably seen, well, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've been getting a bunch of mentions and a bunch of retweets and a bunch of attention from people who call themselves ADOS, the American Descendants of Slavery. And their big push is wanting reparations. And so I was thinking about that. My initial idea regarding reparations was similar to Scott Adams' idea, where maybe an effective way to do something like that would be if you had a free college pilot. So you wanted to move in the direction of free college for everyone, and you could start, any idea you want to test at a smaller scale before you scale it up, especially nationally. So you want to try it in maybe one area or with one group of people before you scale it to everyone. So one way that you could maybe do reparations is offering free college to African American people, to black people. And they would be the beneficiaries and they would get free college, and we would see how that works. And we would see how we would pay for it, and we would see, what the positive versus maybe negative or latent effects may be. So you have your manifest effects and your latent effects if you're a sociologist. So, what's the good and the bad, the ups and the downs, and then, we would hope there's more positives than negatives. And that would be one way that you could, conceivably think of reparations, is trying this out first, and me being the primary beneficiaries of this be the African American community. But I'm not so sure if that idea works, especially going into the future, because the value of a college education seems to be going down, not up. And the alternatives seem to be much more varied and much more attractive, especially if you're of someone from a lower socioeconomic background, like me. So if you're from a lower socioeconomic background, the effects of college aren't as pronounced as, say, starting a business. Your odds of starting a business, they're not good, but if it works, you have a pretty good shot of escaping your socioeconomic caste, we'll call it, or your class. Whereas if you go to college and you're poor, you can have your college degree and just leave college with a lot more debt, and nothing really changed about your situation except you owe someone money, and you have an education that is of questionable economic value. So, and the alternatives are just so fantastic. So Lambda School, for instance, if you've heard of Lambda, Lambda is a online coding boot camp, if you want to call it that. They teach you how to code, and it's completely free. But if you get a job, they help you find a job, and once you get a job that pays you more than, I believe, $50,000 a year, Lambda will then take a percentage of your income. I believe it's 10% or 17% for 3 years. And if you don't get a job, then it's completely free. But after completing the Lambda School, you will have a very valuable set of skills that you can take to the marketplace that will and it will value you much more than $50,000 in pretty much every circumstance, because there's a big shortage of computer engineers, and it's not looking likely that that's going to change anytime soon. So Lambda is investing in people and hoping that that investment pays off by grabbing a percentage of income, that's dependent on a whole bunch of things. But that's pretty good. College doesn't pay you, and then, on the promise that they'll just take a percentage of your future earnings. You have to pay a lot of money for college. And for people that are poor, that's not always the easiest thing to do. And so models like Lambda School, models like Inside Sherpa, models like FlockJ, which is something for sales, there's all these different alternative paths to education to teach you these very valuable skills that also don't require you to pay anything, that also help you find a job in just these new and novel ways that college can't. And with the incoming with AI and automation, the value of a college education becomes less and less clear. So if you're going to do something like reparations, getting back to that topic, it's not entirely clear to me, at least, that that's the best path forward, that that's the best way to bring people out of their socioeconomic status or their disadvantaged status. So my idea is, would universal basic income, would that be an acceptable alternative for reparations? Now, obviously, it's not exactly the same, but if you're getting $1,000 a month, would that count as, at least in some part, as some form of reparation? Because it gives you an immediate baseline of economic well-being, right? You're not going to starve, you'll have money, and especially if you work on top of that, you will have some sort of decent standard of living, relative to the global index, let's call it. So would reparations be an acceptable? I don't know, and I'm hoping someone can tell me, but it seems as if universal basic income would be a very powerful thing to establish a baseline for people from disadvantaged backgrounds, because the impact of that $1,000 a month is going to impact the poor in a much more positive way than it impacts rich people. Because rich people, if you're making $100,000, you get an extra $1,000 a month. It's nice, but it's not necessary. You don't necessarily notice it too much. But if you're poor and you make $24,000 a year, an extra $1,000 a month, it's like you hit the jackpot, right? It's like you won one of those scratch-offs where, win $250 a week for life, so that's a lottery ticket someone would buy. And it's a pretty good comeuppance. I don't know if that works for reparations. Would that work? Would that be a play to the African American community, that UBI is a form of reparations? Is that even a good idea I don't know. I'm interested to hear what you guys think, and I know that's probably going to be a hot button topic, but I'm of the opinion that, the African American and Black community has been disenfranchised, especially, by our country in the past, and that they've started from a disadvantaged position, at least historically and societally. And so if we could do, discrimination and legalize discrimination where you had, segregation, that wasn't that long ago. There's people alive today who experienced that. Compensating that community in some way, shape, or form seems to make sense. It seems like we should probably do something about that, right? And something that makes sense, something that's going to actually help. Free college, it might be, free college might end up being an example of well-intentioned but misplaced altruism, where you want to do the right thing and you think you're doing the right thing, but your impact is really not entirely clear. But maybe universal basic income, maybe that would work. I don't know. I'm interested to hear what you guys think, because it makes sense that we probably should do something for that community. But interested to hear what you guys think about that. That's all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed that. And this has been Let's Talk with Brian Ross. I will see you guys all maybe tomorrow. We'll see. All right. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe and send me comments and follow me at Ready Brian Ross on Twitter. I guess I should be saying all that sort of stuff. So, all right. Reach out and I'll reach out back to you. All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.